Hello, everyone.
Hello, nice
So,
to meet you.
you as well. Let me just get this in slideshow mode and I'll get started.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And I'm going to discuss the newly released Distributed Wind Market Report 2023 edition. This report shares information about the small, medium, and large wind industry in the United States, where the energy that is produced is dedicated to serving a nearby load instead of being sent long distances away. In order to create the Distributed Wind Market Report, we need to gather data, and we gather a lot of it. This year, we issued 480 data requests to manufacturers, developers, installers, operations and maintenance providers, state, federal, and international agencies, and trade associations. Some examples of the requested data that we need are the number of turbines sold domestically and internationally, the turbine model, hub height, location, and cost of newly installed wind projects, and the quantity and dollar amount of incentives that are issued to distributed wind projects. So now we'll start getting into some of the data and findings from this year's report, starting with distributed wind deployment. And it's important to keep in mind that while we call this the 2023 edition, the data actually reflects the last full calendar year, so we'll be featuring 2022 in much of our discussion today. So a total of 29.5 megawatts of distributed wind capacity was deployed across the United States in 2022. This addition brings us to 1,104 megawatts in cumulative distributed wind capacity from over 90,000 wind turbines deployed across all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Northern Mariana Islands, and Guam. New distributed wind projects were documented in 13 of the United States in 2022, including California on the West Coast, all the way over to New York and Virginia on the East Coast, and a variety of states in the center of the country. And the map at right shows the cumulative distributed wind capacity, and it's worth noting that the trends are pretty similar for utility scale wind energy. We see a lot of capacity in the center of the country and not so much in the southeastern part of the United States, where the wind resource tends to be lower. In 2022, Iowa, California, and Nebraska were leading the United States in new distributed wind capacity additions. And Iowa had nearly 16 megawatts that were deployed from two large-scale projects. California and Nebraska each gained a 5.6 megawatt project. The new projects in Iowa and Nebraska, the large-scale ones, are owned by utilities and are connected to load-serving distribution lines. The California project is a behind-the-meter installation for the Dole Fresh Vegetables Company. Iowa and Minnesota, located in the center of the U.S., are the top overall states for cumulative distributed wind capacity because they have a strong wind resource, active project developers, and they've received a significant number of grants over the past years. Now, focusing on small wind, where projects are using turbines with capacities of 100 kilowatts or smaller, Minnesota added the most capacity in 2022. This is largely due to EOCycle, a Canadian company that is making an effort to sell its 25 kilowatt wind turbine to farmers in its neighbor to the south, Minnesota, in order to provide a decarbonization solution for the emissions-heavy agriculture industry, which is quite prominent there. Iowa, Nevada, and Alaska are the top overall 3 states for cumulative small wind capacity, although we didn't see any new small wind deployed in 2022 in Nevada or Alaska. Now we'll move on to discussing U.S. distributed wind projects and sales. 8 developers have accounted for nearly 70% of distributed wind capacity from projects using turbines greater than 100 kilowatts since 2018. And these developers tend to work almost exclusively in a single state or region, which I've listed out at the right. And they may not install projects every year because large-scale projects especially take a number of years to develop. For small wind turbines, sales and capacity increased in 2022, as you can see and you can see from the yellow line there that imports from non-US based manufacturers had a substantially larger presence in 2022 relative to previous years. The non-US based manufacturers that had sales in the US in 2022 were from Canada, Taiwan, Italy, Scotland, and China. Next, we'll take a look at certification of small wind turbines in the US. And currently we have 9 small wind turbines that are certified in the United States. And these range from less than 1 kilowatt in capacity to nearly 30 kilowatts. And I've included photos of some of them for you to see the different designs that we have certified in the States. We'll next take a look at distributed wind policies, incentives, and some market insights. So in 2022, the combined value of US Department of Agriculture Rural Energy for America program, or REAP, grants plus state production incentives for distributed wind projects was $5 million, and these were distributed across 8 of the United States. And you can see in the bar graph that the amount of grants and incentives for distributed wind projects has been pretty consistent over the last 3 years. In 2022, over $1 million in USDA REAP grants were awarded to 12 distributed wind projects in 6 different states. And to put this into perspective, the bar graph shows the amount of grant money given to energy efficiency projects in dark green, solar projects in light green, and distributed wind projects in yellow. And you can see that wind is definitely not getting a big portion of the money here from USDA REAP. However, through the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, the USDA REAP received a funding allocation of over $2 billion with $303 million set aside for underutilized technologies, which includes distributed wind. So perhaps this trend will be changing in the near future. Next, we'll take a look at the cost trends for distributed wind. The average installed cost for new small wind projects, which are those involving turbines less than or equal to 100 kilowatts, was $7,850 per kilowatt in 2022, which is lower than the 10-year average. So costs are coming down in the United States. They're still somewhat higher than residential solar, but we are seeing the downward trend. For projects using medium and large wind turbines, the average 10-year installed cost is $4,050 per kilowatt. And we had only one project that reported cost in this category in 2022, and that was at about $3,000 per kilowatt. All right, on to my favorite section, which is performance trends in distributed wind. If we're starting with small wind, those 100 kilowatt turbines or smaller, the average capacity factor in 2022 was 15%. The sample includes 101 turbines all across the United States, with rated capacities ranging from 2 kilowatts up to 90 kilowatts. These were installed anywhere from 2009 all the way up to the beginning of 2022. There's a lot of spread in the observed capacity factors. They range from 1% up to 37%. And I've got to say that 37% is in the range of those big utility scale wind farm capacity factors. So that's really impressive for some of these small turbines. For projects using the bigger turbines, anything greater than 100 kilowatts, the average capacity factor in 2022 was 23%, with a range of 6% up to 39%. For the distributed wind projects, using turbines of all the sizes, we did a comparison of performance in 2021 versus 2022. And 60% of our projects had capacity factors that were higher in 2022. In the scatter plot at the left, projects with better 2022 performance are above that dashed 1-to-1 line, and projects that did better in 2021 are below it. And many factors, of course, go into distributed wind performance, but one of the big contributors was that 2022 was a stronger wind resource year than 2021 in the Midwest and Northeast regions of the United States. So the map at the right shows the ratio of 2022 wind speed to 2021 wind speed from ERA 5. And the warmer colors indicate where the 2022 wind resource happened to be better. Next, we'll take a look at our distributed wind market. Who are the customers in the US that are adopting distributed wind? In terms of the number of distributed wind projects installed in 2022, agricultural customers, shown in light gray, made up the majority at 33%. And this was followed by residential customers in dark blue and commercial customers in light blue, who each represented 26%. Lastly, we'll take a look at the future and wrap up with a few conclusions. Here we present our entire record of distributed wind capacity going back to 2003. And you can see that capacity peaked in 2012, and this occurred following the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. This policy enacted Section 1603 payments, which were reimbursing eligible applicants for a portion of the cost associated with installing clean energy technologies, including wind. While the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 doesn't provide anything equivalent to these payouts, it does provide opportunities that could benefit distributed wind, such as the dedicated USDA Rural Energy for America program budget for underutilized energy technologies, which could potentially spark significant growth in the distributed wind market over the next couple of years. Finally, much of the data that we use to create the distributed wind market report is publicly available in our newer online database, and so we encourage you to check it out and use it. We provide data on where the projects are, what the capacities and turbine models are, whether they're hybrid projects with other distributed energy technologies such as solar, and much more. And so for more information, please check out the full report or reach out to us.
Thank you very much. Is there any question from the audience? So a question from my side. Do you update this report every year, or is it just now for a certain number of years that you carry out this study?
Yeah, we update it every year. It's a big effort and one that we enjoy, lots of engagement with the communities. And so, yes, we have a new report every year, and it goes back, I think this is our 11th year doing it. So if you, the whole history is out there if you want to check out the reports, and feel free to reach out. I can easily point you to where they are, but they're all online. Yeah, and so we've got quite a history at this point. Well, I think you're on mute. There you go.
Sorry. So how about the data collection? Is it something that you need to suffer a lot to get the data, or is it data that you have already available from databases?
It definitely requires some creativity and a lot of collaboration with the key players in the industry. And thankfully, it's a very nice community. People are friendly, but it's a lot of emailing, sometimes calling, getting together at the United States Distributed Wind Energy Association conference, and requesting the relevant data so that we can put it all together. So it definitely can be an involved process. I saw a question in the chat of, is it available on the NREL website? There's probably some advertisement of it on the NREL website, but it's mainly on the main US Department of Energy website, and I'd be happy to drop the link in the chat.